extra stuff for, right there you can see it really, really bad. The extra stuff on them to be able to sit at the computer all day long and to be better on your eyes, but it reflects horribly. Reflects horribly. There we go. We took that down. Now the vertical column on there is still showing, but that is much, much better than everything else. I'm going to just take a peek over here. Let's take a look at the sunrise. Gonna have to pan. Turning. There we go. There we go. So, you might look out there and say, oh, well, it looks like the snow is almost over. Well, it might be almost over. It's supposed to be 70 degrees today. And then the temp is supposed to drop. We're supposed to get rain. We're supposed to get snow overnight. So that'll be fun, said no one ever. So, all right, there's the guppies. Trying to see if I can see. No, that's a snail. There's a few little ones in there. They don't like to come forward. They like hiding. The little ones like hiding, but anywho. There we go. There's a look around, taking a peek at everything going on in my neck of the woods. So, anyway, hope you're doing well. Hope you're going to have a super blessed day, my friends. Hope you have a blessed day. Lou says, welcome in, my friend. Welcome in. We, oh, MJ, hey, with the sub. That's 6 months already? How is it 6 months already, my friend? You plan to enjoy the beautiful day while I still have beautiful day to enjoy. Yeah, today, I'm really tempted to hop on my bike and go for a ride outside today. But my plan had been, no, let's not ride outside until after I get back from vacation, and then the end of the month jump out there. But man, 70 today, it's really tempting. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what the temperature actually gets to before I make up my mind about doing that. So, but anyway, yeah, get out, enjoy the day before the snow and or the rain and snow come in tonight. That's the plan. So, and how's your Lent going, my friend? How's your Lent season going? Hope all is well for you. Oh, hey, Wywis is popping up, wanting to be on, just barely on cam. Oh, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and show Wywis, the albino plecostomus, the albino pleco there. Just at the bottom, there we go. He's peeking up. Take a look into his red eyes, which are kind of creepy, actually. MJ, probably going for a long walk, plus National Cigar Day. So you might have. I didn't know it was National Cigar Day. I might have to celebrate as well. All right, so you're just going to show us your belly now, and all your fins. Great. That's what everyone wanted to see. Was your belly. Thanks, buddy. Oh, there we go. Your lovely mouth too. The mouth is kind of creepy. I guess I think the whole fish is kind of creepy. Anyway. All right, let's get into some Bible. So we've got more of Mark's gospel and Leviticus. We got some Leviticus. We finished Exodus yesterday, which means Leviticus is on tap. Leviticus is on tap. I'm excited about that. I know not a lot of people get excited about Leviticus. I like some Leviticus. So, MJ, it's been a rough Lent from a pastoral care standpoint. A lot of crisis situations. Other than that, Lent is good. Oh, yeah, that's not a normal thing that you would coincide Lent with uh, pastoral care crisis, but you never really have control of scheduling those kinds of things. So I did have several years ago a trying to think what it was, how many weeks it actually was. Anyway, I had a week and a half where 3 people passed away and had 3 funerals. When those were done, had a week or so break, and then turned around and had a 2 week period again where 3 people passed away, and then had a 2 week gap, and then again had 3 people pass away. So within like an 8 to 9 week stretch, I had 9 funerals. That's been about the most intense stretch that I've had before. You spilled a beer on your keyboard a month ago, therefore I keep getting random periods between my words. uh, yeah. Well, keyboards can be really cheap and easy to get a new one, but uh, having big thumbs and I often end up typing B's between each word because I go down to the space bar and it thinks I hit the B button. And I get B's or N's in between words. So the words will just run on with no spaces where the spaces are supposed to be as a B and an N. And AI has not, they have not created the AI that says this is for people with large thumbs who type extra characters in between words instead of spaces. They just don't have that. Or the person who types in the wrong order could be dyslexic, or hey, my right hand is faster than my left, so even though I went to type the letter here with the left hand, the right hand went first because it just, Hey, T-Rex! Welcome in, friend. Welcome in. Okay. I think I'm going to go do Mark 9 to finish Mark 9. Then we'll jump over and do Leviticus. And then we'll go back and do Mark 10. So I think that's how we're going to do. I might skip Leviticus 5. We'll see what it is when we get to it. But we're going to do Mark 9 here to start with. I think that's the plan. Oh, what verse were we starting in? 33. 33. So we had the Transfiguration, the boy with the impure spirit on the way down, and Jesus predicting his death a second time. Excuse me. So I think it was supposed to be 32. 33 is where we're starting. But they did not understand what he meant, and were afraid to ask him. So they didn't know what he meant by the Son of Man will be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill him, and after 3 days he will rise. They did not understand. Subdue, my friend. Welcome in. Welcome in. I know you were talking about Bible study. So we have, those that don't know, we have started a Tuesday night, 9 EST, Discovery Bible study. So you show up, we read a passage, we talk about it. We read it again, we talk about it, we read it again, we talk about it. So you don't need to know anything before you come in, know what's going on. You didn't miss anything. It's just whatever we do and we talk about it. But I'm wondering if the turnout has been not as great as maybe some of us thought it could have been, because the fact that it's 9 p.m. EST means no one in Africa and Europe who might be here in the morning, or no one who is in Australia or in the Philippines who's usually here in the morning is up. I don't know. So, all checked in on the way to work. All right, good, my friend. Just some guy. Yeah, I don't like the term AI because there isn't actually any intelligence in it yet the way we think of it. Machine learning is what I usually call it. Really, it's basically applied statistics right now. Generative stuff gives you something based on trained probability of matching the prompt you give it. Well, it's predictive algorithms is what it is. So you do predictive in this, predicting the next letter, predicting the next word. Gotcha. DJ the Beast, good morning. Welcome in, friend. Yeah, you're not wrong, says some guy. You're not wrong. Okay. Bum. They came to Capernaum. When he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the road?" But they kept quiet because on the road, they'd been arguing about who's the greatest? Who's the greatest? You know, I want to know what their arguments were based on. Like, does Andrew get some props by saying, "Hey man, I was the first one to follow. I was the first one, and I went and got Peter, and Peter got James and John. I was first." Does Philip get some props, or Nathaniel get some props? I mean, some of the lesser known. I mean, like, were they in the argument? Were they making a play? I mean, we know James and John make a play, and everyone else is indignant with them. I don't know. I think it'd be fun. That said, I do like the identification uses, like for diseases or object classifications. Pop Taterhead. Good morning, Flat Cap and Chat. Welcome in, friend. Welcome in. So he asked them what they're arguing about. They're like, "No, we weren't arguing. What you talking about? What you talking about, Willis?" Sitting down, Jesus called the 12 and said, "Anyone who wants to be first must be the very last and the servant of all." So clearly he knew what they were arguing about. He gave them an opportunity to fess up. They didn't fess up, so he talks about it anyway. He took a little child whom he placed among them. Taking the child in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one of these little children in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me does not welcome me, but the one who sent me." Okay, now we think this is an easy thing to do, to welcome children. But that was not societal norm of the time. Children were of no value. Children were, of very, very little value. They only had potential value. Only in the sense that they would grow to be adults did they have value. The fact that they could not contribute to society at this point meant they did not have value. Therefore, they did not need to be included. They just needed to be, seen and not heard would be a good way to say it, until they became such time that they could help. So, contribute. And they did not. So, Jesus taking the child in his arms is not like the same way that we think, oh, kids are so special and kids are so amazing and all of this stuff. We have. I say we almost. No, we have. We have turned caring for our children into a form of idol worship at times, where we serve our children, we take them to everything, we provide everything that they desire, we treat them as if they were the most important things in our lives, which they should not be. So we go the other way. Hey, tip of the cap, my friend. How are you doing today at the FSU? Good to see you. And I saw your post. Gonna make some pennies this week. Well, it's a start. You were posting that, and I was thinking, wow, if I calculated out my earnings for the hourly rate for streaming, I'm right there with you, friend. I'm right there with you. And if I calculate it out for all of the digital content that I've been creating in the last 6 months with reels and shorts, woo, yeah, pennies an hour is the rate I'm working on here too, my friend. So I gotcha. Had a great night. Just got over the energy. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, when you have the energy that's just vibing, oh man, that's fun. That's fun. Okay. Bum 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 bum. Continuing. Teacher, said John, we saw someone driving out demons in your name, and we told him to stop because he was not one of us. Okay. He just said, whoever welcomes a child. Child was not considered equal with everyone else. They were not on equal standing. Here he just said, and so I saw someone who did not have equal standing with us. They did not have the clout that we did. They have not been following you in the same way that we have. So I pronounced on him to stop it. Like, I told him what's for. Do not stop him, Jesus said. For no one who does a miracle in my name can in the next moment say anything bad about me. For whoever is not against us is for us. Truly I tell you, anyone who gives you a cup of water in my name because you belong to the Messiah will certainly not lose their reward. We totally overlook this passage. Whoever is not against us is for us. That's it. That's it. So, I don't care what denomination you are. If you are doing something in Jesus' name, you're not against me. What? 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 You can't really mean that. I 100% mean that. Whoever is not against us is for us. Whoever is not against us is for us. You know, this is not the way that we go around doing things from a biblical perspective of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. No, it's the opposite. It's the unless you are my enemy, you're not my enemy. We don't have to be friends to be friends. You're just someone who I don't know yet, and you're not against me, then you are my friend. Like there is not many things that get under my skin more. Game theory checks out. There are not many things that get under my skin more than any Christian who is attacking and criticizing another Christian for what they're doing without knowing the person, without having a conversation with the person, without asking questions of the person. You just pronounce judgment on that other person or that group of people, and you denounce them. Well, if you don't know your history, then you probably don't know that the whole modern movement of foreign missions was completely denounced at the beginning because it was unnecessary. If God wants to save the heathen, he'll save the heathen. He doesn't need to send you. Except for the fact that Matthew 28 says go, and Acts 2:8 says go, and all these other passages that say go into all the world and preach the gospel and go make disciples of all nations. Except for all the passages that tell us we should do it, why would you want to do it? You don't need to do it. So you criticize the person that does it. Oh, and then, how about those people that jumped on radio to broadcast and share the gospel? Do you forget how they were criticized, how they were looked down upon? Wait. How about those people that brought the piano into worship? Yes, the piano. Not talking guitars, talking piano. Oh, yes, and organ too. If you're old enough, nobody is. If you're old enough, you remember all of the music wars about the piano and the organ. They were bar instruments. They were the music of the secular world, of the realm of the people that were far away from God. So how dare you bring those musical instruments into the church? Every time that someone does something that's moving in the direction of blessing others for the kingdom of God, somebody stands around and says, shame, 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 I know your name, you shouldn't be doing it. And it goes all the way back to the disciples. You're not doing what I would do. You're not part of us. I'm going to criticize you. I'm going to put you down. It's oh. You want to get under my skin. There's a way to get under my skin. It's one of the reasons why, like, people will do reaction videos. Not going to be my thing. Not going to be my thing. From the standpoint of, I have thought about going in the direction. This could be like, if I ever have grandkids, this could still happen. Because I have no idea what any popular music is. I really don't. And I don't care. But if my grandkids ever wanted to do a thing where they played some song I've never heard in my life, which could be any song from the last 20 years, they play the song and then they say, "What did you think the words were, Grandpa?" That I could do that one, and that would be hilarious because I'm going to have no clue what they said, and I'm going to have no clue what it's about, and it'd be hilarious. But it would not be judgmental. It would not be criticizing. It would just be old man doesn't know what the heck he's listening to. And that would be funny. But me listening to someone else who's a Christian and criticizing and critiquing what they're doing. No, if I have an issue with someone, what does it say I should do? Go to them privately. Go to them privately. Well, if I don't know them, how am I going to go to them privately? Then exactly, you're not supposed to probably go to them. If you don't have a relationship with them, then you shouldn't be criticizing them. I don't know. I don't know. Interesting thought. This is early on in such creating the sense of a group, us, them. It's not so much really early on. We're in, let's see, we're in Mark 9, I think. Let me just make sure we're in Mark 9. How much is Mark? Mark is like the action Bible. It's moving. Let me let's look here a minute. I'll figure this out real quick. I'll do Luke 1, and then I'll scroll to the bottom and back up to, it's 16. It's 15 or 16. That's all. So we're over halfway. Oh, wow. Mark 16, yeah. Yeah, so we're over halfway in Mark's gospel. We're over halfway. So it's not so much early on. They've already established that Jesus is the Messiah. They've already established Jesus as the Messiah. So at this point, the 12 have been there. The 12 have been following. Jesus has gone all over the place, done all these miracles, done all these things. Oh, and then notice this. So let's go back. He's teaching them about who wants to be first and who wants to be last. Why? Because they're arguing about it. So what does he do? He brings a child in. And then the disciples go in the other direction and say, well, maybe I'm going to be last, but at least I'm better than those guys over there. And I told them what for. So even if I have to be the servant of all, it won't be of those guys. Those guys are on the outside. They're not a disciple. They're fake disciples. They're faux disciples. They're pretending to be. They're not doing all the following stuff. They're just over there doing casting out demons part. I mean, they're doing the fun part. They're not doing the hard part of sleeping on the ground and following you everywhere and listening to the crazy crowd and doing crowd control and feeding and distributing food. No, they're just casting demons out, doing the fun part. I told them to stop. He's not done. See, these are, he's still talking about the same thing. He returns back to the little children. This is not a separate conversation. It's still about the same thing. If, if anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them if, if a large millstone was hung around their neck and they were thrown into the sea. If, if your hand causes you to stumble, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life maimed than with two hands to go into hell, where the fire never goes out, And if, if your foot causes you to stumble, cut it off. It is better to enter life crippled than to have 2 feet and be thrown into hell. And if, if your eye causes you to stumble, pluck it out. It is better for you to enter the kingdom of God with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into hell, where the worms that eat them do not die and the fire is not quenched. Everyone will be salted with fire. Salt is good. But if, if it loses its saltiness, how can you make it salty again? Have salt among yourselves and be at peace with each other. So he is interweaving the 2 thoughts here about allowing children to come in, of bringing everything and not creating stumbling blocks. What was the stumbling block he was creating? Judging other people. Believing other people were not participants. Exclusionary groups are the stumbling block to children. Oh, wait, and it doesn't add saltiness to the life of others. There is no benefit. You're not adding flavor. You're not adding anything of preservation, whatever image you want to connect with salt here. You're not doing anything to bless others. Oh, yeah, and you know what? Be salt to other people and be a blessing. Be at peace. You're going in the wrong direction. You are causing stumbling blocks to this little children that I was telling you don't want to do that. And you know what? What you just did, that's what you were doing. So what it seems like to me is what Jesus is saying here. So that's a fun passage. That's a fun passage. Sorry to, this is like the Debbie Downer passage a little bit, but what it is, okay. This is the disciples as Jesus is getting close to being at the pinnacle that they anticipate him taking down Rome. They're jockeying for position to be the one on the right and the one on the left. So they have the most prestigious and the most powerful people so that they can be the inheritors of the positions of power after Jesus. They can be the ones controlling everything else. They are jockeying for position because the higher they are up right now, when everything gets instituted and Jesus brings in the kingdom, they've been with him the longest. That guy over there hasn't been. They're missing the fact that serving is the way to honor in the kingdom. That's what they're missing. Okay. So there we go. We got the rest of Mark 9. Let's see what Mark 10 is before we move on. Let's see what Mark 10 says. Divorce. Yeah, I'll save that. I'll save that. And we'll start Leviticus. Who's excited about starting Leviticus? Anybody? Anybody? Anybody know what Leviticus is? No takers on. Wow. I mean, we didn't read through it last year. Last year we went a bit slower. We weren't doing Bible in a year last year. We did Torah Tuesday, but we didn't get through all of the Torah last year. We did Genesis, and then did we get to Exodus and then go to Deuteronomy, or did we just go to Deuteronomy? I forget. But we didn't do Leviticus last year. We did 2 years ago. 2 years ago we read through everything. Oh, why did it do that? Clicked on something I couldn't see. Okay. And it went backwards on me. Weird. Okay, so Leviticus. Leviticus is essentially the book that is given to the priests so that the priests know all the things they're supposed to do. But remember, the people of God are supposed to be a nation of priests. And how are they supposed to, as a nation of priests, know how to live their daily lives? by watching the priests live their daily lives. So they're supposed to be a nation of priests. The priests are supposed to show them how to live, and then the people are supposed to live in light of exactly how they watch the priests live their life. So the book of Leviticus is the way in which someone seeking after God lives their life. Now, I know a lot of this has to do with all the ritual and all the practice in the temple. But don't get caught up in the ritual part of it. The ritual part is pointing to something else. The ritual piece is about the relationship, not about the practice. So that's one of the things we get caught up in, is it's about the motivation behind things. It's about the heart, because there's lots of passages that say, you honor me with your lips, or in your heart is far from it. So it's not about checking the box. God is not interested in you checking the box. If you go to church on Sunday to check the box, you might as well stay home. You might as well stay home. If you go to church, sometimes because you're like, well, I don't know, but I want to go, but I don't know. Yeah, that's okay. You're wrestling with it. You're struggling with it. Or you go because it's habit. Well, it's still better than going to check the box. But we also sometimes think, well, I don't get anything out of it, which is a horrible mentality. It's a horrible mentality. Why are you supposed to get anything out of it? Aren't you supposed to be going to give your worship to God in the presence of others and to join in the worship of God with others? The point of going to church isn't for what you get out of it. It's for what you give into it. And sometimes you don't get anything out of it ever. And you're not going to. But you're going to go to give so that others are blessed and so that God is praised. That's the reason to go, is for what you bring and what you contribute. And if you're only going to check the box and you're only going for what you get out of it, you miss all of that. All right, I'm going to just do a pan here so that as I'm looking, I can probably go and find that and cut that and make a short VOD of that. All right, so this is why I like Leviticus. Plus, I don't know, there's some detailed stuff in here that lots of people don't know. One of the things that a lot of people wrongly believe is the only kind of sacrifice that God ever accepts is a blood sacrifice. Yeah, they need to read Leviticus, my friend, because there's lots of other kinds, not just blood. He's not a bloodthirsty. I was trying to think of good savage, monger, hunter, whatever. I was trying to think of the term for bloodthirsty God, and I couldn't think of it. Anyway, the Lord called to Moses and spoke to him from the tent of meeting. He said, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when anyone among you brings an offering to the Lord, bring as your offering an animal from either the herd or the flock." Okay. Animals can come from the herd or the flock. So, if the offering is a burnt offering from the herd, you are to offer a male without defect. Okay, so if it is from the herd, which is going to be your cows, it's a male without defect. You must present it at the entrance of the tent of meeting so that it will be acceptable to the Lord. You are to lay your hands on the head of the burnt offering, and it will be accepted on your behalf to make atonement for you. So one of the things, I don't know if it really fully describes here, but the idea of the laying on of hands, when we get to the scapegoat, clearly is described. But the laying on of hands is a transference of sin. It's a transference of wrong. And so it is going in your place. Therefore, you're transferring all of the wrong, all of the sin up from you to the animal. You are to slaughter the young bull before the Lord. Young bull, yeah, don't get the old one that's tired and doesn't have work to do anymore. No, the young bull. And then Aaron's son, the priest, shall bring the blood and splatter it along the sides of the altar at the entrance to the tent of meeting. You are to skin the burnt offering and cut it into pieces. The sons of Aaron, the priest, are to put fire on the altar and arrange the wood on the fire. And then Aaron's sons, the priest, shall arraign the pieces, including the head and the fat on the wood that is burned on the altar. You are to wash the internal organs and the legs with water, and the priest is to burn all of it on the altar. It is a burnt offering, a food offering, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. Okay, so the burning of the animal is part of the offering, not just the blood. The burning of the animal, which always the fat portions, which would be the most prestigious pieces that you would want, all of those are offered as burnt offering. If the offering is a burnt offering from the flock, from either the sheep or the goats, you are to offer a male without defect. Okay, so you can be a sheep or a goat, male without defect. You are to slaughter it at the north side of the altar before the Lord, and Aaron's sons, the priests, shall splash its blood along the sides of the altar. You are to cut it into pieces, and the priest shall arrange them, including the head and the fat, on the wood that is burning on the altar. You are to wash the internal organs and the legs with water, and the priest is to bring all of them and burn them on the altar. It is a burnt offering, a food offering, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. Obi-Wan, hello, welcome in. Good to see you, friend. Good to see you. I think I've seen you around in other streams. Glad to have you here. We're reading a little Leviticus, and I'm just looking and going, I can stretch that over a bit. I was squeezed there. Okay. If the offering to the Lord is a burnt offering of birds, yes, you can bring birds. Why? Because you're poor and you can't afford anything greater. Hey, Uncle Teddy, with the sub. Hey, that's awesome, my friend. That's awesome. Everyone give some hype and love for Uncle Teddy. That is a total of 2,600 biddies, my friend. 2,600 biddies, my friend. Dude, you're so fantastic. When you come in, dropping the biddies, dropping the sub. Dude, appreciate you so much. I will, those who haven't been here, maybe haven't got the update in a while. So if you look down below, that is where you can support me. You can support things that I am doing, and sometimes we fundraise for other people. What we had been fundraising for was getting a prayer booth in my community. Starting that, I'll be starting in May, and I needed to get the deposit down and needed to get half of the rent for the summer, which is $1,500, and we have already raised $750. So I did have it over there that, hey, we made it last week. Then I tried to put in the new one, and I thought it would leave the old one, but the stream updated. Even though I went to the page to update it, it said start a new one, not eliminate the last one. It eliminated the last one. So I couldn't leave the yay God up there that we got half of the funding for being able to do the artisan market prayer booth. So that's where we're at. Still have more to raise. I'm hoping to raise some IRL in my community. Oh, by the way, I am preaching for Lent tomorrow, and I still haven't made up my mind. I thought about maybe just rando streaming on Twitch from my phone. I don't know how that would go. I might try it. I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be worth it. Get on, give a, 10, 15 minute message and be done. Might not be worth it. Plus, I'd be preaching, so I wouldn't be able to take and engage chat at all anyway. So, I don't know. It was a thought. It's a thought. Okay. So we start with the largest. We started with the bull. Then we went to the flock, and we have the sheep and the goats. Now we're moving to the birds. Now, when it was the bull, it was a male. When it was the sheep and the goats, it was a male. Now I'm just pointing these things out that we've seen as we've gone along. If the offering to the Lord is a burnt offering of birds, you are to offer a dove or a young pigeon. The priest shall bring it to the altar, wring off the head, and burn it on the altar. Its blood shall be drained out on the side of the altar. It is to remove the crop, or he is to remove the crop and the feathers, and throw them down east of the altar where the ashes are. The crop with its contents, the meaning of the Hebrew word is uncertain. Okay. Anyway, it sounds like pulling off some of the feathers or something. He shall tear it open by the wings, not dividing it completely, and then the priest shall burn it on the wood that is burning on the altar. It is a burnt offering, a food offering, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. So, I do have you know what? Let me look when Easter is. Lucis. I have a note that's sitting here. It is the craw. Okay. Yeah, well, it just says that the Hebrew word is not a well-used word and is unclear what it actually is. Okay, so we have to the total end of March to do that. So, yeah, you know what I can do? I can get that probably up by the end of the week, and people can do that, make suggestions, because I found where you can make suggestions of songs, and then we can do that. But I will be gone the whole week of the 11th through the 15th. I will not be streaming that week. I don't know how much I'll be streaming next week, so it'd have to be the week when I come back. So, all right. So Leviticus starts with, hey, if the people come and want to make offerings, here's how to do it. Hey,
119 just followed.
Thanks for the follow, friend. Okay, so we started with a food offering, a pleasing aroma. It wasn't about the blood in those offerings. Yes, blood was a part of it, but it called it a food offering. Now, a grain offering. Yes. So, any arguments that you hear about Cain and Abel and that Cain's offering wasn't accepted because it wasn't blood, the people who are making that argument don't know Leviticus. Grain offerings were acceptable offerings. Grain offerings were commanded offerings. They weren't secondary. They served a different purpose. So there has to be a different reason why Cain's was not acceptable. And it's not because of blood. Sorry. I've heard that many times, and it's like you just don't know your Bible. It doesn't say that in the context, and you're making an assumption, and you're missing a whole section of the Bible that talks about grain offerings are part of how you give offerings. Okay. When anyone brings a grain offering to the Lord, their offering is to be of the finest flour. Also, the other thing is, this says flour. Well, what if Cain hadn't brought a flour offering? Well, this wasn't instituted before Cain. But my point being, grain offerings weren't excluded, and God didn't say, don't bring me anything but animals. No, it's not at issue there. They are to pour olive oil on it, put incense on it. Okay, so you're putting incense and olive oil on the flour. This clearly means you're not going to be eating it if you're putting incense in it. There are some, just pointing out as we go along, there are some that you will eat. You will eat sometimes the offerings. The offerings aren't always to be totally consumed by fire. Okay, and take it to Aaron's son, the priest. The priest shall take a handful of the flour and the oil together with the incense and burn this as a memorial portion. Okay, so the incense only goes on a handful. So however much you're bringing of your flour, let's say you bring a bushel. Well, I take a handful of it. We pour the oil on, olive oil on it. We put some incense on it. This is the memorial portion. This is the part that's burned. What if I bring 10 bushels? Well, maybe there's a memorial from each bushel, but it's still only going to be a memorial piece from each bushel that is brought. All of it is not. The flour is not all burned. A memorial portion on the altar, a food offering, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. The rest of the grain offering belongs to Aaron and his sons. It is a most holy part of the food offering presented to the Lord. So if you bring an offering of grain, which is going to be made into flour, you don't just bring this one, you don't just bring the grain, you go through the process of making all of your grain into flour. Once you've made all of your grain into flour, you now take part of your flour and you give the work of your labor to God, which some is burned memorially and the rest goes to support those who are doing the work of God. I don't know. I think that beautiful. I find that beautiful. If you bring a grain offering baked in an oven, it is to consist of the finest flour, either thick loaves made without yeast and without oil mixed in, or thin loaves made without yeast and brushed with olive oil. So, no yeast is allowed in offerings. So you can bake the bread. Maybe it's easier for you to bake the bread and to bring the bread as an offering. If your grain offering is prepared on a griddle, it is to be made of the finest flour mixed with oil and without yeast. Crumble it and pour oil on it. It is a grain offering. So I think the best way to think of this on a griddle here kind of thing, I know you might think of a pancake. I think probably a better image here would be like a cracker. So it's maybe like a thin cracker that's baked to a crisp, and then you're supposed to crumble it and pour the oil on it afterwards. So like breadcrumbs, perhaps. If if your grain offering is cooked in a pan. So you've got bread which will be baked. Here you have a griddle. Now you've got a pan. It is to be made of the finest flour and some olive oil. Bring the grain offering made of these things to the Lord. Present it to the priest. Present it to the priest, who shall take it to the altar. He shall take out the memorial portion from the grain offering and burn it on the altar as a food offering, an offering pleasing to the Lord. The rest of the grain offering belongs to Aaron and his sons. It is a most holy part of the food offering presented to the Lord. So, even if it's a baked loaf of bread, you take a portion of it, you put incense with it, you burn it. That's how grain offerings work. If it's flour, if it's bread, if it's cracker type, if it's a whatever, there's a portion that gets burned. The rest goes to Aaron and his sons. Because the Levi, Aaron and family, don't own land and animals. Yes, Lucis, exactly. They do have, like, there's cities that they have, and they do have some, okay. Here we're talking about in the temple or the tabernacle. So, yeah, they don't have land per se, when they're in Jerusalem, when they're serving in the temple, there isn't a portion there. In their 10 cities, I think it's 10 cities, in their 10 cities, there would be land around the city that they could use for growing food. So, and that was because when you're in your city, you're not serving in the temple. You would take your turn and go serve in the temple, and your family would be back in the city where people could go to for maybe they had more than that for cities, but there's 10 sanctuary cities. So I might be thinking of the 10 sanctuary cities. But you're absolutely right. This, however, notice is for Aaron and his sons. So I want to make a distinction here, Lucis. Aaron is of the tribe of Levi. Aaron is the line of the priests, but Levi is the line of all the temple workers. So it's not, so they're, I'm trying to think of a better way of thinking about it. Anyway, it's Aaron, Aaron's sons, and his grandsons onward that are the priests, but it's not just priests that work in the temple. So it's the priest and the Levites. So the Levite is the tribe, but Aaron is just, and his sons are the ones who are priests. So I'm trying to think of, someone with a large enough family that would be well known enough. Well, I guess I could just pick on Prince Harry for a minute. So Prince Harry will not be the king in all likelihood. So that would be like, but they're of the royal line. But after Charles would be William. So it would be like that distinction. Oh, Harry is of the tribe of Levite, but William is of Aaron. And I know that doesn't quite work because they're both brothers, but I don't know anyone outside the family to point to say, oh, well, they're outside. I was trying to pick up someone well known enough to be able to do that with. That's the best I could come up with. Somebody that was here that was British could help me out with that. And in the U.S., we don't quite have that kind of a system. So anyway. Every grain offering you bring to the Lord must be made without yeast. Notice how this is repetition. Without yeast, without yeast, without yeast. Before that, after that, during that, making sure never bring yeast to the Lord. You are not to burn any yeast or honey in a food offering presented to the Lord. Oh, wait. Honey just got included here. Honey just got included. So not only do you not burn yeast, you don't burn honey. So yeast would be in the thing that would be a normal thing for normal food, which would be a normal process, but honey would be an exception. It would be an exception. It would be the praised. So like if you wanted to think of this like in terms of normal bread, special bread, and dessert, like the honey's going in the dessert category. The offerings you bring are the offerings that are going to be of the lowest end, and those with yeast would be the normal. So we're bringing the lowest end and the high. We're bringing the lowest end. We're not bringing the middle and the high end, if that makes sense. Okay. You may bring them to the Lord as an offering of first fruits, but they are not to be offered on the altar as a pleasing aroma. Okay, so we can bring yeast and honey, but as first fruits, not as burning. We don't burn the yeast, we don't burn the honey. Season all your grain offering with salt. Do not leave the salt of the covenant of your God out of the grain offering. Add salt to all your offerings. Wow, that's interesting. Add salt to all your offerings. And we were just having a conversation in Mark about saltiness. Wow. Yawns this week for some reason. Don't know, my friends, why sometimes you yawn and sometimes you don't. It doesn't always have to do with you're tired or don't have sleep. I know I do, like, it's not that cold in here today. But I know, for instance, whenever I've gone hunting and I sit outside and it's cold, I yawn because it's cold. I know that. But otherwise, hard to say. So add salt to all lack of oxygen. Yeah, I've heard those things that, yeah, you need to. Well, if that's true, then it has to do with not being able to breathe through my nose real well. But that could be. Could be. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just add salt to all your offerings. Is this just the grain offerings? Is this just add salt to all your grain offerings? We're only talking about grain offerings. We didn't have salt added to the animals that I saw. I'm thinking this is just saying all these types in the grain category. I think that's what that means. If if you bring a grain offering of first fruits to the Lord, offer crushed heads of grain roasted in the fire. Okay, so if you're doing first fruits, you're not going through all of the work to take and grind them into flour and do all that. You bring the kernels of the grain and you roast the kernels of the grain in the fire. You put olive oil on and incense on the grain. It is a grain offering. The priest shall burn the memorial portion of the crushed grain and the oil together with all the incense as a food offering presented to the Lord. Okay. I don't know. I love the offering stuff here, like the intent behind it and the description of what it looks like and how you're doing that. If if your offering is a fellowship offering. See, we're going through all these different categories of fellowship offering. No offense, but it sounds like making popcorn. A little bit, yeah, like roasting the grain. But well, along with that, Lucis, is that popcorn is a special variety of corn that the moisture content is in a certain category that makes it pop. But if you want to think about if you've ever had roasted nuts, like I know by me around Christmas time, they'll often have roasted nuts, and sometimes you'll put whatever caramel, cinnamon, sugar, other things on the roasted nuts. I think roasted nuts are a good way to think about these roasted grains. You're taking the kernels of the grain, so maybe think of like roasted sesame seeds. If you've ever had those would be the direction of going in it. So you're roasting the nut or the seed. But yeah, you're right. But popcorn with not popping. Oh, ad break. I'm sorry, friends. Didn't see that coming. All right, so we'll take a look. I'm going to go walk over and feed the fish. And whoops, I overfed them. I was trying to add just a little bit more, and then boom, too much. All right, so community should be back. Yeah, no popping grains then. I don't think they would pop. But like I said, like a nut, if you think of that. Now they could pop open, or maybe if you soaked the grain okay. If you think about it this way, Luce, a good question, Lucis, and a good analogy there. And I'll just leave the fish on while I chat about this because it's raining fish food. Like I said, I put too much in. When you just go and harvest grain, it's going to still have moisture in it. It's not going to be dried yet because you're doing first fruits. So first fruits, you are going to go and harvest it and bring it in as an offering right away. You're not going to dry it out like if you're doing the harvest at the end of the season, where you let the grain dry out on the stalk and then you harvest it once it's dry. So it's going to still be wet when you go to roast it. So I'm trying to think of, well, so you were saying popcorn. Popcorn would have been dried. If you just did a roasted corn, I don't know how you might do if you do corn at all. My favorite way to do corn is to do corn on the cob, and you go, oh, well, there's nothing new about that. No, but I leave the husk on the whole outside of the corn. I put it on the grill, and I turn it, and I let the husk on the outside turn black. It also holds all the moisture inside the kernel, or in the kernels are still in there. They're still all moist inside when they're doing it. So if you're taking a grain, which is going to be, I don't know if I've ever actually had like seeds from a grain stalk like wheat, barley, or that. But it's still going to be the same thing, like smaller than ear of corn, obviously. But roasting it, it's going to have moisture in it. It's going to heat up. It's not going to pop because it's not dried. You need to dry it out before that would happen. So anyway, that's how you prefer your corn on the cob, roasting it in the husk. Yeah, I go to the grocery store. I don't get my corn from the grocery store anyway, and I see the when they have the corn there, and everybody is taking the husks off and leaving the husks at the grocery store. I'm like, you're not paying by the pound. Okay, if you're paying by the pound, I could understand. I'm a cheapskate. I'm going to throw the husk away, so I'm not paying for the husk, just paying for the corn. But they don't pay by the pound. It's so many per ear, It's this many ears for this many dollars. That's how it usually is. It's not by the pound. They just count them and you're done. You know the price. So you have just put an expiration date on your corn by exposing it to oxygen. You've just let all the moisture start to evaporate out of your corn. I'm like, why? Why do people do that? Do they not have any comprehension of it? I don't know. You've seen it done. Yeah, it's always, like, there's always a big trash thing by me where they take and they, oh, you wait, exactly. Well, there you have it too. Like, you're wasting a container that you could use for tamales too if you're throwing those away in the store. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, we're way off. We need a rabbit trail on that one. We need a rabbit on that one. I think it's just rabbits. Yep, there we go. Okay, but we're talking about food in the Bible, so no, we're not too far on a rabbit trail. We were related to the topic. We just stepped off trail for a minute. We'll get right back on. If your offering is a fellowship offering and you offer an animal from the herd, whether male or female. Okay, so notice this. We have a shift now. The type of offering tells you what you can and can't do. The type of offering tells you what you can and can't do. So you can't have yeast in a burnt offering. You can't have honey in a burnt offering. You can have it in a first fruits offering. You can't have a female that is going to go, what was the first offering we had? I'm forgetting the title of it. I'm going to just go back a minute. What was the first one? I thought it was just a burnt offering. Okay, it was just a burnt offering. Yeah, so in a burnt offering, no females. No females. Here in a fellowship offering, you can have a female. Okay, offer an animal from your herd, whether male or female. You are to present before the Lord an animal without defect. You are to lay hand on the head of the offering and slaughter it at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Okay, so even in the fellowship offering, there's the laying on of hands. With the food, you don't lay on hands, and there's no blood slaughtered. No blood. So that would be why. You're not transferring to the animal in the offering. Then Aaron's sons, the priests, shall splash the blood against the sides of the altar. From the fellowship offering, you are to bring a food offering to the Lord, the internal organs and all the fat that is connected in them, both the kidneys with the fat of them near the loins, and the long lobe of the liver, which you will remove with the kidneys. Then Aaron's sons are to burn it on the altar on top of the burnt offering that is lying on the burning wood. It is an offering, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. Okay, so notice here, all it says that gets burned here is the internal organs and the fat, and then it gives specifics on what's included in these internal organs and the fat. So when you give a fellowship offering, the meat is not burned up. The meat is not there. Why? Well, let's see what happens with the meat. Let's see what happens with the meat. You're just burning the internal organs. This is where the priests go wrong later on. The priests are seeing all of the liver, the lobe, the loins, the kidney, all of this stuff that would be most considered to be the delicacy parts of, and they're all getting burned and given to God, and they're like, yeah, I want that. I want that. So they're taking them. That's a problem they do later on, is they don't follow these. They are the ones supposed to be the example for the people, and they're not. They're selfish. Let's just put it that way. If you offer an animal from the flock as a fellowship offering to the Lord, you are to offer a male or female without defect. If you offer a lamb, you are to present it before the Lord. Lay your hand on its head and slaughter it in front of the tent of meeting. Then Aaron's sons shall splash its blood against the sides of the altar. From the fellowship offering, you are to bring a food offering to the Lord. Its fat, the entire fat tail cut off close to the backbone, the internal organs and all the fat that is connected with them, both the kidneys with the fat on them near the loins, and the long lobe of the liver, which you will remove with the kidneys. The priest shall burn them on the altar as a food offering presented to the Lord. If your offering is a goat, you are to present it before the Lord. Lay your hands on its head and slaughter it in front of the tent of meeting. Then Aaron's sons shall splash its blood against the sides of the altar. From what you offer, you are to present the food offering to the Lord, the internal organs and all the fat that is connected with them, both the kidneys with the fat on them near the loins, and the lobe of the liver, which will remove with the kidneys. The priest shall burn them on the altar as a food offering, a pleasing aroma. All the fat is the Lord's. In case you didn't get that. Okay, why? Though it seems like it's repetition, it's not exactly repetition. Notice the shorter list with the goat of the things that were counted as fat and as internal organs to be given. It got shorter. It got shorter. With the sheep, it got longer than with the cows. So from the herd, we had a standard. The sheep, it got longer. The goat, it got shorter. But there is a repetition here. That's why it doesn't just say generically, hey, when you give an animal offering, all the fat's God's. It says it at the end, but it gives the specifics so that there's no argument. Well, did it include the fat on the kidneys? I don't know that kidneys are the thing. I mean, maybe there's some fat on them, but no, the kidneys and all the fat, it said. It said all of it. Okay. Well, what about the long lobe of the liver? Yes, the long lobe of the liver. That's included. What about the loins? How about that back strap? How about that? Yes, it goes through all the detail so that people like me who would ask, well, is this really included when you say all? Does all mean all? Is it? Yes. Yes, my friends, all of it is. Of the cow, of the sheep, of the goat, whether male or female, all the fat is always God's, always burnt. The burnt offering, it's burnt. Of the fellowship offering, it's the only part that's burnt. This is a lasting ordinance for the generations to come. Wherever you live, you must not eat any fat or any blood. So, you're not to eat any fat or any blood. Now we're going to get to the sin offering. Wait a minute. I thought burnt offerings were sin offerings. No. No, the burnt offering is not a sin offering. The burnt offering is the way in which an offering is given. You give a burnt offering. A burnt offering is going to happen on a regular basis. On a regular basis. A fellowship offering is going to happen when you have first fruits is only going to happen when first fruit season is. Whenever you harvest. So for me, first fruits would be well, it depends on the crop, I guess is still the thing. So strawberries, first fruits could be June. Blueberries, first fruits are going to be July. So, you know, then you could go get into apples and peaches. I'm just thinking fruit. I know when fruits are typically ripe because it doesn't depend on when I planted them. It doesn't depend on when I planted them. So, well, right now, first fruits would be maple syrup. If I were to give my first fruits of the maple syrup that I've been boiling all weekend, now would be the time to give it. Now would be the time to give my first fruits of maple syrup. So, okay. The Lord said to Moses, say to the Israelites, when anyone sins unintentionally and does what is forbidden in any of the Lord's commands, notice this word, unintentionally, not intentionally. The sacrificial system, this part isn't covering intentional sins. Let's just go make sure what that word means. Leviticus 4. When anyone sins unintentionally. Sin through ignorance is what it says here. Okay. Through ignorance. Wow, that's a word. That's a word. Segaga. Segaga.
Strong's H, 7684. Shegaga.
Shegaga. Oh, man, I didn't see the H in there. I guess it is a shin. I should have saw that. This is where the transliteration messes me up here. I should have looked up here. That's a shin. So I should have known the Shegaga. Okay. To sin of error or inadvertency. Inadvertence in error. This is the first use. This is the first use of this word. Committed in ignorance. I'm just wondering, where does it end? Joshua, Ecclesiastes. So this word is given here in Leviticus. In Numbers, I'm going to guess it's related to when the people were doing things in ignorance. Just a couple of times in Joshua, once in Samuel, 2 in Ecclesiastes. I wonder if that's because, let me go look at the root. To go, to stray, to error, to commit, mental error, ignorance or inadvertently. Okay, still here. Oh, that's even used less. That's even less. So that's not why, but that is 6. Oh, wait. Genesis 6:3. Then it didn't give me Genesis 6:3. Okay. Sorry. Down a rabbit trail. Continuing. If if the anointed priest sins, bring guilt on the people, he must bring to the Lord a young bull without defect as a sin offering for the sin he has committed. So, if the priest does something unintentional and it is discovered, the results of it are revealed, doesn't tell us how this is learned, it doesn't matter. When it is the priest, and I love how it starts with the priest. I love how if a priest does something unintentional and they sin unintentionally, they need to correct it because their sin affects all the people. He is to present the bull at the entrance of the tent of meeting before the Lord. He is to lay hands on the head and slaughter it before the Lord. Then the anointed priest shall take some of the bull's blood and carry it into the tent of meeting. He is to dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle some of it 7 times before the Lord in front of the curtain of the sanctuary. Okay, so if we wanted to go back to how the priests were consecrated, set apart, there was a process of them having their finger dipped in the blood, if I remember, and sprinkling it. So here is symbolically a reinstituting of that consecration, not by taking 7 days, but by a 7-time dipping in front of the curtain and sprinkling the blood. The priest shall then put some of the blood on the horn of the altar of fragrant incense before the Lord in the tent of meeting. Yep, that's the similar as the other. The rest of the bull's blood shall be poured out at the base of the altar of burnt offering at the entrance of the tent of meeting. He shall remove all the fat from the bull of the sin offering. All the fat is connected to the internal organs, both the kidneys with the fat on them near the loin, and the long lobe of the liver, which he will remove with the kidneys, just as the fat is removed from the ox sacrificed as the fellowship offering. The Hebrew word can be either male or female. Okay. Because it's talking about the fellowship offering, could be either. Then the priest shall burn them on the altar of burnt offering. But the hide of the bull and all its flesh, as well as the head and the legs and the internal organ and the intestines, this is all the rest of the bull he must take outside the camp to a place ceremonially clean, where the ashes are thrown, and burn it where the wood fire on the ash heap. Okay, so similar like the bulls that were going to be used for the dedication of the temple. There's parts that go on the altar, and the other part goes to the place where the ashes go, and you can burn the bull out there. We don't burn the whole bull inside the temple, inside here. We do the big fire outside. If if the whole Israelite community sins unintentionally and does what is forbidden in any of the Lord's command, even though the community is unaware of the matter, when they realize their guilt. Okay, so here's the point with the people. The people realize their guilt. How might they realize their guilt? It might be pointed out to them. There might be consequences that come about that point to them that we've sinned, and then they figure out what it was. When it's the whole community, and you figure it out, and the sin they committed becomes known, the assembly must bring a young bull as a sin offering and present it before the tent of meeting. The elders of the community are to lay their hands on the bull's head before the Lord, and the bull shall be slaughtered before the Lord. Then the anointed priest is to take some of the bull's blood into the tent of meeting. He shall dip his finger into the blood and sprinkle it before the Lord 7 times in front of the curtain. So again, the 7-time you dip and you sprinkle before the Lord, 7 being the number of totality, 7 being the number that was in consecration. When you consecrated the temple, when you dedicated the temple, when you consecrated the priests, 7 days or 7 periods of time. Here, 7 actions. So, is to put the blood on the horn of the altar. And again, the horn is where is represented power. And so you're putting blood on it as representative, giving to God the power. That is before the Lord of the tent of meeting. The rest of the blood shall be poured out at the base of the altar of the burnt offering at the entrance of the tent of meeting. He shall remove all the fat from it and burn it on the altar, and do with this bull, just as he did with the bull for the sin offering. In this way, the priest shall make atonement for the community, and they will be forgiven. Then he shall take the bull outside the camp and burn it as he burned the first bull. This is the sin offering for the community. Okay, so this kind of sounds like as they're talking about this, as he did the first bull. So if the whole community, including the priest, sin, the priest has to then first offer one on behalf of himself, get himself back into right standing. Then he can offer the one for the people. He doesn't just offer the one for the people if he's been a participant in whatever the sin is. So that's why I think he's saying, as you did with the first one. So, yeah. When a leader sins unintentionally and does what is forbidden in any of the commands of the Lord his God, when he realizes his guilt and the sin he has committed becomes known, he must bring as his offering a male goat without defect. Excuse me. That's interesting. We went for the priest, a bull, the people, a bull, a leader, a goat. Not a sheep, a goat. He is to lay hands on the goat's head and slaughter it at the place where the burnt offering is slaughtered before the Lord. It is a sin offering. Then the priest shall take some of the blood of the sin offering with his finger and put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering and pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. He shall burn all the fat on the altar as he burned the fat of the fellowship offering. In this way, the priest will make atonement for the leader's sin, and he will be forgiven. If, any member of the community sins unintentionally and does what is forbidden in any of the Lord's command, when they realize their guilt and the sin they have committed becomes known, they must bring as their offering for the sin they committed a female goat without defect. What? A female goat? So an ordinary person brings a female goat, but a leader must bring a male goat. Did you see that? Did you notice that? Just thinking through this. If I'm a leader and I have wealth, which of my animals is going to be the most valuable to me? As a leader with a lot of goats, it's going to be my studding goat, a male. And how am I going to get another one? Well, his son will become my new studding goat. So if you take away my young studding goat and I sacrifice him, that cost me something. That cost me something. If I'm an ordinary person with few goats, what's the most valuable goat that I have? It's the female goat. The female goat is the one that's going to provide milk for me and my family. The one that I'm going to be able to get milk from, that I'm going to get cheese from, that I'm going to be able to do things from, the one that's going to be breeding, that's going to be producing more goats for me. So if I am less wealthy, the female goat, the young female goat who has not yet even reproduced, is going to be the most valuable because I'm going to lose all of those goats that she would have produced. So in both cases here, of the leader or the people, there's a level at which it's going to cost you. Now, I don't know that I can make those same analogies with the bulls and those things, but just thinking through the difference of a leader taking something valuable to them that might be different from an ordinary person that might be valuable to them. Because otherwise, why the switch? And I might just be guessing at this. I might be wrong, and I might be missing part of that. But I'm just thinking that through. Like if I have 5 goats, and I have a young female goat that's going to replace my birthing goat and my milk producing goat, that's going to cost me a lot of potential. But if I have lots of goats and I lose my young stud that's going to be able to produce more wealthy offspring for me, I don't know. I'm not as reliant on the milk because it won't make an impact there. But the ability to have good, strong, healthy stock coming later, I don't know. And maybe I'm reading in. Like I said, maybe I'm reading in and I'm just making assumptions here. But there was something that was going on, and I'm just trying to hypothesize why the change. So, okay. They're to lay their hands on the head of the sin offering and slaughter it in the place of the burnt offering. Then the priest is to take some of the blood on his finger and put it on the horns of the altar of the burnt offering and pour the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. They shall remove all the fat, just as the fat is removed from the fellowship offering, and the priest shall burn it on the altar as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. In this way, the priest will make atonement for them, and they will be forgiven. Okay. I'm trying to see. Did it say that they're to burn the whole goat? I see the blood and I see the fat. I'm not seeing that you're to burn the whole goat. We'll keep reading. Maybe it clarifies. If someone brings a lamb as their sin offering, they must bring a female without defect. So let's say you don't have any goats to bring as an offering. It's acceptable to substitute a lamb as a female without defect for the sin offering. Wait a minute, I thought it had to be a male without defect. See, this is where we don't know all of our details of what it says. No, we're supposed to bring a goat as a sin offering, as an individual. And it's supposed to be a female. And now, okay, so the other side of that was supposed to be a bull for the whole people, when the whole people do unintentional sin. Okay. So anyway, going on. They are to lay their hands on the head and slaughter it for a sin offering at the place where the burnt offering is slaughtered. Then the people shall take some of the blood of the sin offering, so the priest shall take, with his finger and put it on the horns of the altar of the burnt offering and pour the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. They shall remove all the fat, just as the fat is removed from the land of the fellowship offering. Okay, so making sure when you do the lamb, you got more fat to remove. And the priest shall burn it on the altar on top of the food offering presented to the Lord. In this way, the priest shall make atonement for their sin, for the sin they have committed, and they will be forgiven. Okay, so again, it is just looking like with a sin offering, the animal is slaughtered, and just the fats are offered. Let me go back up and make sure that I didn't misread that in the bull offering. The guilt, the burn, the slaughter, the blood, carry the meaning, dip the finger, and we had the 7 times. The rest of the bull's blood shall be poured. Remove the fat and all the fat contents, both the kidney, the lobe, just as the fat was removed. The offering, the priest shall burn them on the altar, but the hide, the bulls, the legs, the heads, the internal organs, that is the rest, should be taken outside the camp. Okay, so the bull we did have outside the camp. It didn't say what happens to the rest of the animal for the goat or the sheep that I could see. So I don't know if we're supposed to burn that all. It wouldn't be outside the camp. It wouldn't be outside the camp. Okay, I know we're supposed to go just a little ways into Leviticus here to finish. So 5:1 to 13. Let's go look at what that is. I was seeing what it has for a title after 13. The guilt offering. Why are we stopping and not going into the guilt offering? I don't know. Okay. We probably aren't going to stop there then. I'll probably keep going. If anyone sins because they do not speak up when they hear a public charge to testify regarding someone they have seen or learned about, they will be held responsible. So if you are an eyewitness and you hear that someone is being charged and you choose to remain silent, you have sinned. You need to make atonement for that. You need to have an offering. If anyone becomes aware that they are guilty, if they unwittingly touched anything unceremonially or ceremonially unclean, whether the carcass of an unclean animal, wild or domestic, or of any unclean creature that moves along the ground, and they are unaware that they have become unclean, then they come to realize their guilt, or if, if they touch human uncleanliness, anything that would make them unclean, even though they are unaware of it, but then they learn of it and realize their guilt. Or if, anyone thoughtlessly takes an oath to do anything, whether good or evil. So you could even take an oath to do something evil. Did you catch that? If anyone thoughtlessly takes an oath to do anything, whether good or evil, in any manner one might carelessly swear about, even though they're unaware of it, but then they learn of it and realize their guilt. When anyone becomes aware that they are guilty in any of these matters, they must confess in what way they have sinned. As a penalty for the sin they have committed, they must bring to the Lord a female lamb or goat from the flock as a sin offering, and the priest shall make atonement for them for their sin. Okay, so these are not that they have done something that they were unaware they shouldn't do. This is they're unaware that they've done something to make them ceremonially unclean. Notice that. They touched something unwittingly. They've done something. They've come into contact with something. So these are unintentional connecting to people. Connecting to things that are sinful. Anyone who cannot afford a lamb is to bring 2 doves or 2 young pigeons to the Lord as a penalty for sin. If for a sin offering, one for the sin offering and the other for the burnt offering. Okay, so the burnt offering is the part that's burnt. Well, with birds, you don't have all the intestines and all the other stuff. So you've got to have a second one that represents all the good stuff that you're burning up, and the other is for the offering itself. So the sin and the burnt offering, you need 2 doves. They are to bring them to the priest, who shall first offer the one for the sin offering. He is to wring the head from its neck, not dividing it completely, and is to splash some of the blood of the sin offering against the side of the altar, and the rest of the blood must be drained out at the base of the altar. It is a sin offering. The priest shall then offer the other as a burnt offering in the prescribed way, and make atonement for them for the sin they have committed, and they will be forgiven. Luces. So this was this the offering Job did for his kids in case they had sinned? Love that question. Luces. I don't know because there's the question of when is Job historically supposed to be taking place. But if it's not this, there is potential that, he would have been doing this. He would have been offering. I love that question. That's a great question. I think some of these, if he's doing it for them in totality, he may have been offering the offering for an unintentional sin, bringing the cow for the community. He might have done it in that manner. Or if he brought one on, because it did say each on their day, they held the festival. They were in charge of it. So maybe each one on their day, whoever's day it was, he offered a sheep or a goat on behalf of them on the day that they had their day for the party. But great question. I love that thought. That's saying, hey, where does this apply and where did that take place? Great insight, Luces, or great question. Obi-Wan, for Jews today who unfortunately don't believe in Jesus but follow the Old Testament, they don't do sacrifices today. Exactly, Obi-Wan. They are not doing any of these things. Now, for those that would be outside of the promised land, there's not necessarily a concern that they're not doing all these things because they're not in the land. Okay, so they can't follow these practices because they don't live in the land. from a standpoint of they're on the land, they have the land, and when you're in the land, you're to do these things. So from that standpoint, those not living in Israel, this isn't as big a concern that they can't. But when you get to those in Israel, they don't have a temple, they don't have all of these places, all of these, the tabernacle, or so this is a tabernacle, but the temple later on, they don't have the altar, they don't have the Holy of Holies, they don't have all of these components and all these instruments to allow them to do all these sacrifices. So at most, what people could do would do individual sacrifices, because the priests aren't doing it. Are you just saying that they aren't able to do it, or were you thinking more, Obi-Wan? Were you thinking more? Because that's an interesting thing to think about. Is here are very prescribed things that they are to be doing, and it's not taking place. It's not taking place. What I'm not 100% clear on, excuse me, is how has the priestly line been preserved since the destruction of the temple, and do they have a priestly line that is ready and in place to be able to consecrate the temple if a temple were to be built? Not saying, oh, we can go find out who people are. No, I'm saying, was it preserved all the way along? That's the piece I'm wondering. I don't know that. Simply just an interesting thing to think about. You went to Israel last year and you noticed this. Oh, okay, cool, man. It's on my bucket list, and I three times I have worked towards planning a trip to Israel. And then we got so far and it didn't happen. And actually, the year before COVID, I was planning to do a sabbatical, and I was exploring going to do my sabbatical as an 8-week study in Israel. And so the year COVID happened, I was beginning to start the process of figuring all those things out, which would have happened the following year. And none of that took place. So, the Essenes felt the priestly line had been corrupted. Oh, yes, totally. I'm not disagreeing with that thought. And the Essenes were thought to be priests or Levites who had withdrawn from supporting the temple service. So they could have been Levites, they could have been priests who had left because they were in opposition to the selling of the priesthood that took place under, can't remember what the last name of the dynasty for the Herods is called, but Obi. Of course, these sacrifices are not necessary anymore because Jesus is our ultimate Savior who paid for all. Oh, yes. So true. Yeah. Dapper Pastor, being in Israel and learning scripture in the place you read is a whole new understanding. You'll love it. I'm sure I will. Right now, I'm not making any plans. Currently to go to Israel. I'm just making plans to follow what I'm supposed to be doing, which at times is up in the air of what am I supposed to be doing for God. Okay, we'll keep going. If, however, they cannot afford 2 doves or 2 young pigeons, they are to bring as an offering for their sin 1/10 of an ephah of the finest flour for a sin offering. Okay, so this is what you're supposed to do, but I know there's poor people, so they can go with doves. And you know what? Maybe you can't even afford that. I will still provide a way. Flour. That's what you can do. They must not put olive oil or incense on it because it is a sin offering. So in the burnt offering, you mix it with other stuff for the burnt offering. Sin offering, nothing in it. They are to bring it to the priest, who shall take a handful of it as a memorial portion and burn it on the altar on top of the food offering presented to the Lord. It is a sin offering. In this way, the priest will make atonement for them for any of these sins they have committed, and they will be forgiven. The rest of the offering will belong to the priest, as in the case of the grain offering. Obi, God will lead you, and I will pray that you can. Does the olive oil or incense have to do with leavened bread? We would, if you weren't here, we started out with the burnt offering. And when you brought a burnt offering of the grain, you could bring it as bread offering. And so you would, if it was flour that you brought as the offering, the portion that was burned as a burnt offering, you did put olive oil in it, and you did put incense on it, and you burned the grain with the incense and with the olive oil. So they're making a distinction. With a sin offering of grain, you don't. And then with a sin offering, or so with a burnt offering, it had to be, if it was a baked loaf, it had to be without yeast. So when you're saying unleavened bread, yeah, here it's just straight up flour. So this is not leavened bread. We read through the whole thing of the bringing unleavened bread, all those things. However, a fellowship offering could have yeast or honey in it. So you could bake bread with yeast or honey or both as a fellowship offering, which a fellowship offering did not get burned. It would have been eaten. Flat cap, God will keep you posted. He will. If it happens, it'll be beautiful. It'll be wonderful. Yeah, understood. Thanks for that. Yeah, but great question there. Yeah, as we're going through all of these, keeping all of these different things straight in your mind is not an easy thing to do. You have burnt offerings. You have grain offerings. You have fellowship offerings. We haven't even got to wave offerings. Now we have sin offerings, and then we're going to have guilt offering. We have unintentional sin. Okay. I'm just going to scroll down a second. Yeah, I'm going to finish this chapter. Okay. Then the Lord said to Moses, when anyone is unfaithful to the Lord by sinning unintentionally in regard to any of the Lord's holy things. Okay, so the things that are sacred, set apart. So in regards to things in the temple, in regards to people, things that are separate, sacred, set apart. If you sin against these things, they are to bring to the Lord as a penalty a ram from the flock, one without defect, and of the proper value in silver according to the sanctuary silver. Okay, so you're going to have to bring the ram of proper value. If you sin against the holy things, you sin against the temple, you sin against the altar, you sin against the priest. I don't know what else would be included in the holy things, the sacred, set apart, separate things. I would guess Sabbath could be included in this too. But I'm not certain. Not certain on what all is included. It is a guilt offering. You must make restitution for what you have failed to do in regard to the holy things. Pay an additional penalty of 1/5 of its value and give it all to the priest. The priest will make atonement for them when the ram as a guilt offering, and they will be forgiven. Okay, so if you fail to do the holy thing of giving your tithe and offering, then you're going to have to make a penalty of 1/5 of the value, and you've got this ram and all that stuff. If anyone sins and does what is forbidden in any of the Lord's commands, so this is different. You sin against the holy things, you bring a ram. Now you're sinning against the commands. Even though they do not know it, they are guilty and will be held responsible. So you're guilty of it even if you don't know that you're doing something wrong. They are to bring to the priest as a guilt offering a ram of the flock, one without defect, and of the proper value. In this way, the priest will make atonement for them for the wrong they have committed unintentionally, and they will be forgiven. It is a guilt offering. They have been guilty of wrongdoing against the Lord. Atonement for have been made for them. Okay. I'm just going to peek ahead at 6. Okay. We still got more offerings, and we got a grain offering coming. Okay, we'll just end there. We'll go through 5. We'll go through 5. That's a good. I'm just going to do all of 5 here that we've done it. So then when I add the section later, I'll put in what was supposed to be the second part here, but we did that all. We did that all. And I'm fine with doing that. We'll pick up Mark on Thursday, and we'll rush through all of Mark 10, and then we'll pick up with whatever Mark reading is supposed to be for Thursday. Then we'll jump back in and get Leviticus on Thursday. So, do you know if the silver shekel given were for God or for the priest for living expenses? Obi, that's an interesting question. What were the temple tax that were given used for? Let's go back and look. It's in Exodus. And I spelled it wrong. Need a little N in there. Okay, sanctuary shekel. Okay, so 30 is the full context. Okay, so let's just go look a second. It might have said in here. It might have said in here when this was first given. Oh wait. That didn't give me what I wanted. I missed it. Okay, full chapter of 30. I thought that's what I was getting, but it's not. Okay, here's the atonement money. Okay. When you take a census of Israel to count them, each one must pay the Lord a ransom for his life at the time they are counting. Then no plague will come on them when you count them. Okay, so this is where you get the annual temple sanctuary. It is for you to not have a plague in Israel. So you pay and you redeem your life, you ransom your life when you get counted. Now, I don't know how often they counted, but my thought is it becomes the sanctuary payment that happens annually. Each one who crosses over to them already counted is to give half a shekel according to the sanctuary shekel, which is half the weight of Gara, the half the shekel offering to the Lord. All who cross over 20 years old or more are to give an offering to the Lord. The rich are not to give more. The poor aren't to give less. Receive the atonement money for the Israelites and use it for the service of the tent of meeting. There it is. There it is. Use it for the service of the tent of meeting. So that's what it's to be for. So what does it mean to use it for the service of the tent of meeting? On one level, you would have offerings that are coming in of oil that would then be used for the lamps that are being lit. But where do you get all the firewood? You're going to have to go and purchase the firewood for all these offerings. Where are you getting the incense? You're going to have to probably go purchase all the incense. So I think the temple tax is used in those ways for the service. The offerings that are given of the food that the priest get, like we just were reading the grain, there's the portion that the priests get of the grain. So you burn a memorial and the priests get the rest. We haven't got to the meals yet that are eaten together. We haven't gotten to any of the parts that are mentioning that the priests get to eat the rest of the animal that's left, or the people eat the rest of the animal. We haven't got to any of those yet. So I think the bulk of it was intended to pay for the necessary things to do the operational budget of the temple. I think is what the sanctuary shekel is designed to do. And the gifts, the offerings that are given, are to take care of the people that do the service. Now, once they're all in, does it matter if column A and column B go in different things? I don't know. That's always been one of those questions I ask about things. So if you give to your church and you intentionally give to the youth ministry, but somebody else intentionally gives to the senior citizen ministry, and someone else just gives to the general fund, if I just give to the general fund, my money makes up wherever it's needed. And the other two people's just get there. Now, do they all have to keep separate in the bank account to know that all of those are going to the right place and all? I don't think they have to. They're all given and all used. So, that makes sense. God made sure the priest also had what they needed. He provides, of course. Yeah, exactly. He's covering them any way you look at it. He's covering them any way you look at it. Okay. Wow, we're a little early today. You know what? Actually, I was thinking we could just end there, but I'm looking at the time and going, oh, look at the time. We could do Leviticus 6. We could do Leviticus 6. Oh, and here's where the numbering comes off. So you'll notice this at times. So what we have is an issue, and I don't know where it came up, where in Hebrew, chapters and divisions in some books of Scripture end up in different places than they do in our modern English. Well, our modern English is going to be based on the Latin first, because those chapter divisions were made and passed down to English from Latin before we went back. And we did translation more directly from the Hebrew and the Greek. We would have used Latin because it's what the church was using. So the chapter divisions may have come from Latin and then not from Hebrew or Greek. So I don't think there's any in the Greek that are different. But if we go back to the Hebrew, the Masoretic text might use different ones than the Latin Vulgate. And so that's the difference. So most of the time, those are like the end, or it'll be in Psalms constantly. The title in English isn't a verse, and in Hebrew it is. And other places, it's just like this verse is in the next chapter or the previous chapter, depending on which language you're in. Okay. The Lord said to Moses, if anyone sins and is unfaithful to the Lord by deceiving a neighbor about something entrusted to them or left in their care, or about something stolen, or if they cheat their neighbor, or if they find lost property and lie about it, or if they swear falsely about any such sin that people may commit. When they sin in any of these ways and realize their guilt, they must return what has been stolen or taken by extortion, or what was entrusted to them, or the lost property they found, or whatever it was they swore falsely about. Okay, so here's a weird thing. So all of these things, as I read them, would be an intentional deception. You are deceiving your neighbor. Now, I could unintentionally deceive somebody with bad communication. I could unintentionally deceive someone with bad communication. For instance, I could say, I haven't gotten any new hats in a long time. Well, what do you mean a long time? Is Christmas a long time from today? Well, it depends on how you look at it. We're almost to Easter, so that could be relative. Or I could say, I've had hats for years. I've had these hats for years. Well, yeah, most of them I've had for years. There's only 3 hats that are on this shelf that I haven't had for more than a year. There's only 3 hats that I haven't had for longer than a year. And I got those 3 at Christmas. All the rest are older. But I wouldn't be intentionally deceiving you if I made any of those statements. I would just be not fully accurate. I'd be trying to be simple about the way I'm communicating. So I think that's the only way you could see this as unintentional. But if I'm deceiving my neighbor in something entrusted to me, or stolen, or I'm cheating my neighbor, or I've got lost property, or I'm making false testimony, most of those seem intentional. All the previous things that we were looking at were completely unintentional sins, and then you learn about it. Here, though, it's saying you sin in such a way, you do something falsely, and then you realize your guilt. Let's look at David for a minute. Does David deceive Uriah the Hittite? You betcha. He deceives Uriah the Hittite. Uriah doesn't fall for the deception. He does not fall into the deception, and he doesn't cover up David's sin. So, does David practice deception against his neighbor? Oh, yeah. He then follows up the deception with murder that he orders. He doesn't actually do it. He orders murder by the hands of the enemy. And then he's covered it all up. But what happens when he realizes his guilt? He realizes his guilt. He acted in these ways. He went down a path. He now realizes his guilt when Nathan tells him the whole story about the sheep. And then he says, you are that man. You are that man. You are the one who did this thing. And he realizes his guilt. That's what this is talking about. So I don't think David intends to go down the path, and he just keeps going down the path, and he's complicated things, and he's compounded things, and he's made them worse, and he realizes his guilt. That's what this is for. You've sinned against your neighbor. Okay, let's keep going. Where did we leave off? Okay, here it is. I left off in the middle of a verse. They must make restitution in full, add a fifth of the value to it, and give it all to the owner on the day they present their guilt offering. Okay, so you got to make restitution. You add a fifth to the value of whatever it was. So, let's just say it was $5. You got to add a fifth to it, so you've got to repay $6. So you had something of value of $5, you lost it, it got stolen, it got destroyed, you got to pay back $6. You got to pay back a fifth back to it. Notice it's more than a tithe. A tithe would be a tenth. It's double what you would give to God. You give back to someone that you did something wrong against. Isn't that interesting? It's not a tithe, it's a double tithe. It's a double portion of what you would give to God. You give to your fellow neighbor that you have done something against. You repay it, and you make restitution by giving more than it, and then you still have to offer your offering, and you do them both the same day. Oh man, I didn't know the ad was coming in. Didn't know the ad was coming in. All right, get up and stretch here a minute. That's what the ads are for, is to remind me to stretch. I'll give you some stars if you're listening. You got the subs, so you don't go anywhere, but you can see my fish. And I'll throw some stars in there. Let's look at the guppies. Well, let's look outside a minute, too. Let's see. How's the sun looking? Ooh. I know I can pan just a little more. Maybe we can see the sun. Nope. Not going to be able to see the sun. How about my backyard? Nope, no sun out there today. Oh, look at the guppies. Look at them tails. They move so fast. They don't get captured on camera real well. They don't show up real well. Wow, I'm sorry. I just love looking at my guppies. Just love. Unseasonably warm today and yesterday, Uncle Teddy. Yeah. We're supposed to hit 70 degrees today. The average temperature should be around 35. So yeah, and then tonight, the temp is supposed to crash. We're supposed to have a storm rolling in. It's supposed to start out as rain, turn to snow. Tomorrow will be cold and freezing. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. I'll tell you what. Okay. So talking about the getting to repay your neighbor. And as a penalty, they must bring it to the priest, that is, to the Lord, their guilt offering, a ram of the flock, one without defect, and of a proper value. Notice all of these guilt offerings are of a proper value. So they're going to have to be valued by the priest, which is what ends up being exploited by the time we get to the New Testament. You bring your ram, and I say, it's not proper value. I'll buy this one of not proper value from you and sell you that one of proper value. Then when the next guy comes in, I take the ram I just bought from you, I do the same thing to him, and I say, hey, your ram's not a proper value, but I'll sell you this one of proper value that wasn't a proper value 10 minutes ago, but now that you're here and I can sell it to you because I bought it from another guy, it's now of proper value. So they have that shell game scheme going on. I don't know how flagrant it was, how, that it'd be 5 minutes later kind of thing, but my understanding is there was that whole thing. Yours aren't good enough, you got to buy ours. Which would be why the Essenes say, you guys are corrupt, we don't want any part of it. In this way, the priest will make atonement for them before the Lord, and they will be forgiven for any of the things they did that made them guilty. The Lord said to Moses, give Aaron and his sons this command. These are the regulations for the burnt offering. The burnt offering is to remain on the altar hearth throughout the night till morning, and the fire must be kept burning on the altar. Okay, so we had to start Leviticus if anyone wants to bring a burnt offering. That is not the daily burnt offering that is supposed to be there day and night. There are burnt offerings that are offered one in the morning, one in the evening. So all these other things that were talked about, and then the fat is to go on the burnt offering. It's this burnt offering. It's this burnt offering that all those other fat components were put on, is this one that is burned day and night. So this also might be one of the things that they had to spend money on, is to have a lamb. I think it's lamb. We'll get to that in the morning and in the evening every day. So think about that. Not 365, whatever double 365 is. My brain isn't going to do the 730. Is that right? 730 animals a year they had to sacrifice just for the temple, not for the people. 730 sacrifices would have been required by the priest for temple operation. So maybe the temple coins also went to the caring for those animals, the morning sacrifice, the evening sacrifice. And we already read about this one back in Exodus, but now it's being inserted back into this. The priest shall put on his linen clothes, his linen undergarments next to his body, and then shall remove the ashes of the burnt offering that the fire has consumed on the altar and place them beside the altar. Then he is to take off these clothes and put on others and carry the ashes outside the camp to the place that is ceremonially clean, which is where the hides of the bulls are to be burned. The fire of the altar must be kept burning. It must not go out. Every morning the priest is to add fire and arrange the burnt offering on the fire and burn the fat of the fellowship offering on it. Okay, so what it sounds like here, burn the fat of the fellowship offering on it. People are bringing offerings. They might not have to go on instantaneously. They might not go instantaneously on. Oh, you're standing in line. I take yours and I add it on right now. Like you have a fire that's going. They would go into, for lack of a word, a bucket that would be collected of them, and then at the proper time, they're added to the offering that's going on. So it's a constant, full day, full night offering going on. The fire must be kept on the altar continuously. It must not go out. These are the regulations for the grain offering. Aaron's sons are to bring it before the Lord in front of the altar. The priest is to take a handful of the finest flour and some olive oil together with the incense of the grain and burn it, the memorial portion, on the altar as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. Okay, so we already had all of these things. Why are we repeating this? Because the first part was to the people. When the people want to do these things, here's the instructions to you as the people, and here's how the priests are to do it. Now he's turning to the priest, and he's saying, priest, when the people come to you, here's how you're to do it. Why do we need to tell them both? Because the people need to know how the priests are supposed to do it, so they can watch the priest do it and know the priests are doing it properly. Now the priests are getting the instructions on how the priests are to do it when they're doing these things. And you have the repetition in there. The repetition is supposed to help you remember it by repeating it again and again and again. I know it doesn't make for good reading, but it makes for great listening, great storytelling. If I'm going to tell you all of these things, and remember, when you do this, you're supposed to do it this way. And then when you do it, you will do it the way that you've been told, which is this way. Like, that helps you remember it. Aaron and his sons shall eat the rest of it. See, we did not get the instructions to the people of Aaron and his sons being able to eat the rest of it. Well, I guess with the grain we did, but here, you shall eat the rest of it, but it is to be eaten without yeast in the sanctuary area. They are to eat it in the courtyard of the tent of meeting. Okay, so the grain that you get is eaten in the courtyard. This doesn't leave the temple. This is for those in service of the temple, not going back home. It must not be baked with yeast. I have given it as their share of the food offering presented to me, like the sin offering and the guilt offering. It is most holy. It's most holy, so it can't have yeast. It will contaminate it. Any male descendant of Aaron may eat it. For all generations to come, it is a perpetual share of the food offering presented to the Lord. Whatever touches them will become holy. Oh, that's interesting. Must be holy or become holy. Ooh, I like that distinction there. We often think of the be when God gives a command to be holy as I am holy. It really could be translated become holy. God is speaking the capacity into us when he gives commands. Prior to God's command to be fruitful and multiply, we're not sinning by not being fruitful and multiplying. We're not sinning by we didn't faithfully complete it unless we intentionally don't faithfully complete it. No, he's speaking into existence, be fruitful and multiply. When does fruitful and multiply happen? Is it instantaneous? No, it is a process. So when God is speaking commands into existence and us to become things, fruitful and multiply isn't instantaneous. He doesn't say to all of creation be fruitful and multiply, and boom, Adam and Eve had a dozen kids, and they had grandkids the next day, and then a week later there was 1,000 people on the earth because Adam and Eve, well, they were fruitful and multiplied. No, that's not how that works. So when any of these other commands of God are given, there is a spoken into us of the capacity to become the thing, and we are on the way to becoming the thing. Now, things that are forbidden are a little bit different. I think things that are forbidden are you just don't do. But the things that we are to do are, yeah, you're laughing at the week later, 1,000 people, because Adam and Eve, they took the first command to be fruitful and multiply quite seriously. The Lord said to Moses, this is the offering Aaron and his sons are to bring to the Lord on the day he is anointed. 1/10 of an ephah of the finest flour as a regular grain offering, half of it in the morning and half in the evening. It must be prepared with oil on a griddle. Bring it well mixed and present the grain offering broken into pieces as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. Again, I still think this is like a cracker wafer and you're breaking it up into some crumbs. The son is to succeed him as anointed priest shall prepare it. It is the Lord's perpetual share, and it is to be burnt completely. Every grain offering of a priest shall be burned completely. It must not be eaten. Okay, so the grain offerings of the people, the priest can eat, but a grain offering of a priest is to be completely burned. How much more we got? Yeah, we can finish. We can finish. The Lord said to Moses, say to Aaron and his sons, these are the regulations for the sin offering. The sin offering is to be slaughtered before the Lord at the place of the burnt offering is slaughtered. It is most holy. The priest shall offer, who offers it shall eat it. It is to be eaten in the sanctuary area in the courtyard of the tent of meeting. Okay, so the daily burnt offering, if you are the one offering the daily burnt offering, you are the one that gets to eat it. Whatever touches any of the flesh will become holy. And if, if any of the blood is splattered on a garment, you must wash it in the sanctuary area. Okay, so whatever touches the daily burnt offering becomes holy. This is interesting because this is one of the places where holiness is transferred. But as we go through most of the Old Testament and even into the New, with the exception of Jesus, the idea that things that are holy can transfer holiness onto someone else is not really prominent. But what is prominent is something unclean can transfer uncleanness to someone else. And Jesus is challenging that often. No, it's not what goes into a person, it's what comes out of them. Okay, and then if you get blood on your garment, clean it. The clay pot that the meat is cooked in must be broken. But if it is cooked in a bronze pot, the pot is to be scourged and rinsed in water. So if you're using a clay pot, think about this. Why would you use a clay pot? Because you're gonna have to make a new one for tomorrow if you cook it in a clay pot. So cook it in a bronze pot. You can use it again every day. Any male in the priest family may eat it. It is most holy. And any sin offering whose blood is brought into the tent of meeting to make atonement in the holy place must not be eaten. It is to be burned up. Okay, so sin offerings, not eaten. Burnt offerings are eaten. So sin is atonement. It all goes to God. It's all burned up. But the burnt offering, the portion that is not for the offering, goes to the priest and any of the males. Why only the males? Because when you're serving in the temple, you are away from family, and it is the males who are here doing the serving in the temple. So you go in, you do your service in the temple, and later on it's established like you get a week, and if each family gets a week kind of thing throughout the 52 weeks, you have so many people, you're not there very long doing much. But while you're there, you get to eat. Okay. I think we're going to stop there. The guilt. Man, I just want to keep going when I'm in Leviticus. I don't like stopping. Okay, we got Leviticus 6. So I want to put Lev 6 here and cross off that we did Lev 6 that'll be Thursday already. This is tomorrow. This is Thursday's reading already. We're already into Thursday's reading in Leviticus. That's how much fun I have in Leviticus. Okay. That's our readings for today, friends. That's our readings for today. Hope that was fun and enjoyable for you. What's interesting on some level is the different ebb and flow that happens from year to year in streaming of the time of the year, the people that are able to be in stream, how it ebbs and flows and changes, and people that for months and months and months are in stream and life changes and suddenly new people are in stream. There's just some cool funness to that I appreciate all you being here. That's what I'm trying to say. Appreciate all you being here. And next week, I don't know what I'll be streaming. I don't know what access I'll have to internet. I might be doing some IRL streaming off my phone. So those might happen differently. The following week, I'm on vacation. I will not be doing streaming while I'm on vacation. I'm on a cruise ship. I'm not paying for internet on a cruise ship. Not paying for internet on a cruise ship. Ah, Spartan, it's been my pleasure. Thank you, Spartan. Appreciate you being here, friend. Okay, we're going to give a last look at the Fish and Outdoors because I'm going to get Baldur's Gate up and going. For the rest of our stream, I should also pull up and change the title. So that it says we're doing BG3. So let me change edit that. Oh, sure, I'm getting an alert. Oh, redeem the blessing. All right, Lucis, I'll get to that too before we get over to. I appreciate that. And I should just maybe do that anyway as we switch over, because not everyone hangs out all the way through BG3. I get that. I'm trying to come up with a stream title. I need someone to help me come up with stream titles. I know people get creative in them. I have like no idea how to come up with stream titles. I don't know. What's in... Oh, yeah. First playthrough. That's what my brain is trying to think of. I at least can do that. First playthrough. And... Okay. So stream title has changed. What kind of cruise am I going on? Well, we will go to 3 different stops. It's a week-long cruise. I've been on quite a few cruises, so I usually don't pay attention to, like, my wife's family for vacation. They count down the days of when you're going on vacation and when you leave. When you're like 360 days away from vacation, and I don't understand it. I don't do it. I will look at vacation and what I'm doing next Friday. Next Friday, I'll look at it because next Saturday I get on the ship. So I'll look at it next Friday. So, oh, yes, tropical. Yes, tropical cruise. Oh, sorry. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm going next week to Orlando. So, by the way, if you are in Florida at all, or going to be in Florida, I'll be at the Exponential Conference in Orlando Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I'll be in Orlando for those 4 days. I'm trying to work something out to be in Daytona Beach on Friday. And then on Saturday, I will drive down to Miami. And so if you're in Miami or along the route, might be able to do an IRL meetup either in Orlando or in Daytona Beach on Friday or in Miami on Saturday or places in between if you're able to do that. So DM me if you're able to do IRL meetup of any kind. Okay, fish are off. Gonna hit BG3 to start, and we'll get the redeem for the blessing. Lucis, I appreciate that, friend. Oh, wait. I did this yesterday, and then BG3 all of a sudden made noise. Let me wait a minute. It's going to pop in and make noise a second. Okay. So the noise can be gone now. And I'll do the blessing. May God's seeking comfort find you. May his loving arms bind you. May his might protect you. May his wisdom direct you. May the joyous love of Jesus Christ be with you and all those you know, both now and forevermore. Amen. Thank you for that. It sounds like a thing I heard St. Bear working on, or a few others in another stream. Oh, Well, that would be potentially Nerd Culture Ministry Summit. I don't know if they've announced dates yet for that. I went to the one last November. I know they're planning to do it again this November. I'm super excited about that, Spartan. So if you're not familiar with that, once I have info, I will be promoting that like crazy. It was fun. It was amazing. I enjoyed it thoroughly. This is Exponential, which is a church planting conference that last year, St. Bear, Mark Lutz from, and then the Milk Guy from Lux Digital Church, Bubba and Matt from Love Thy Nerd, Jate from Jate Live, Andy Mage, who is now over at Lux Digital Church. He's also at the Church Digital along with me. And Jeff Reed, who is the founder of the Church Digital. All of us shared an Airbnb in Orlando last year for the Exponential Conference. And life has been amazing. All kinds of fantastic things have been happening. So I'm not going so much for the conference this year. I am going to connect with people. I'm going to hang out with people. What was really weird to me last year, so normally what happens to me is I hit the main conference session and I miss a lot of the breakout sessions. Last year was the opposite. I didn't make a single main session of the conference. I had things scheduled. I had places to be. I had meetings that were going on. We did a podcast that was recorded during a main session. We had other things happening. So I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm going to go to any main sessions. I want to hang out with people. I want to talk with people. I want to chat with people. I want to connect with people. This to me is just a connecting time. It's IRL meetup, as many as I can. So, yeah, that's what I'll be doing. So I'm super excited about that. But I have to, like I said, where I'm staying, I do not know if I'll have internet access. So I'm staying with someone who has a guest house that they said that some of us could stay at. And then a bunch of the people that had been invited to stay there either ended up not attending the conference or they're attending with another group. And so they're staying with another group. So I'll be staying alone at the guest house. And I haven't found out yet if I got Wi-Fi, what the Wi-Fi is. Because a guest house, I wouldn't automatically say it has to have Wi-Fi, but we'll see. We'll see. All right. So those that don't know Baldur's Gate is RPG turn-based. I like that. That's my speed for games. I don't like guns in my games. I'll do Assassin's Creed, and when they went to the having the crossbow and guns and stuff, I just did not like it. I did not like it. No, I did not. I mean, the blow dart was fun. The blow dart, putting people to sleep, that was fun. The crossbow I didn't like. It wasn't as bad as when they added guns. Like, I know, I want stealth attack. I want to sneak up. I want to do that. I want to jump from on high and assassinate people and leave. I don't want to be in a gunfight, where it takes skill and you know what buttons you're pushing and all that. No,